Inquiries into learning behaviour come and go. Most recently, a task force of 13 heads and teachers spent over 6 months deliberating, interviewing, taking evidence and finally producing over 80 recommendations on school behaviour. But for one Birmingham head teacher, Teresa Allen, the very essence of what it's all about came in a blinding flash while dealing with a difficult child during assembly.
The child looked me square in the eyes, drew back her fist and punched me straight in the eye. I was extremely shocked. I could see that everybody in the hall was looking at me. But I looked in the eyes of this child and she was terrified. And I think sometimes you stop being a head teacher and you start being either a mum or a human being again somehow. And I just said to her, "Do you need a hug?" And at which point she sort of just jumped, monkey-like, with her arms around my neck and her legs around my waist. And we took it from there. This was a child who was in a scary place with people that she didn't know, with adults telling her off that she didn't know, and somehow just needed a way out. She knew she'd done wrong. She just needed a way out.
Music to the ears of Sir Alan Steer, the robust head at Seven Kings High School in Ilford, Essex, who led the most recent inquiry into learning behaviour.
In the early days of the report, I would be questioned by a lot of people about whether I was going to be tough. And I have no problem about toughness. I think toughness is certainly needed at times bringing up children. But it's no good if it's not linked to intelligence and a little dollop of love. And I remember saying that to somebody and they said, "You can't say that." And of course you can. I'm a teacher, not a prison warder. You know, I'm developing children. And if there isn't a bit of love in the process, then frankly, I don't think I want to do it.
In this programme, we'll be exploring how far Sir Alan's caring philosophy of creating firm rules, set in a context of consistency and respect, has already been adopted in some primary schools.
Children can learn to behave. They have a right to be taught how to behave. But also, the issues of learning and behaviour are intrinsically joined. And it is nonsense to talk about them separately. As a school leader, you have a particular responsibility to be around, to model the behaviour that you want and the standards you want. And that's something which I'm afraid you do 5 days a week, 40 weeks a year, 35 years.
It's a practice followed by Richard Hornsby, head teacher at Somerville Primary, a large all-Muslim inner-city school in Birmingham.
I see myself, first and foremost, as answerable to the community, not to the LEA or to the DFES, to our community. We're dealing with the most precious thing in their lives, their children. And if we don't listen to them and know their views and about what they want from a school and what the community wants from a school, what hope have we? How can we forge a partnership? We can't.
Mother attends the playgroup with Sam. She has left the room for a moment to go into the kitchen.
So it's no surprise that this school arranges happy parenting classes for moms who've been having problems with their children's behaviour.
What we want you to do is to tell us how the child's feeling in the situation, okay, and how the adult's feeling in the situation, how mum's feeling in the situation. We talk to parents about sharing feelings, about talking about their own feelings and their own needs, and looking at the needs of their children, not the everyday needs, but the real needs, the emotional needs, in order to get some positive feelings, to encourage positive behaviour. And the reason we get to parents to talk about their own feelings and needs is that they can manage their families better, because their own needs are looked after, then they can manage their families better. Remember, we always talk about the behaviour, never the person, it's always the behaviour. If we fall out with our next door neighbour, we don't like our neighbours, it's not the neighbour we don't like, it's their behaviour.
Putting time into parents and into particularly vulnerable children is central. And if you don't do it, you're going to pay. So it's also practical.
And that means putting time in before children even start nursery, preparing the school for the pupil. These nursery practitioners on the outskirts of Birmingham are on their way to meet a boy called David.
Thank you for letting us do a home visit.
Home visits like this help tailor the school to the individual needs of the child. By observing David at play and talking to his mother, an assessment is made of his social and learning skills.
What we're hoping for, that he'll be more relaxed going into nursery, and it won't be so scary for him.
Later, back at the nursery, the practitioners prepare for new arrivals using information gleaned from the home visits to plot a circles of concern map.
Yes. So possibly the middle circle.
If a similar map had been drawn up at the nearby Wychell Primary School a few years ago, it would have set alarm bells ringing. Fighting, bullying and poor behaviour were rife.
Well, I remember actually visiting a month or so prior to me taking up my appointment, and actually when I was upstairs on a top landing, saw children running across tables. Lots and lots of noise, lots of mess and a lack of respect for their environment.
There's a lot of bullying. There wasn't a lot of interactivity going on anywhere, you know, but now it all just seems to have turned round and it's doing very well now.
We introduced a very simple but very clear assertive discipline policy. The children were sort of introduced to some very basic rules, and these rules were the same whether you were in reception or year 6. We then focused on stating with the children what would be seen, what would happen positively if they decided to agree to these rules. Very much the emphasis was on it was their responsibility, it was their choice.
Rules were part of the strategy, but Therese also set about understanding the desperately deprived background many of her pupils came from.
Families are sort of in the areas that our school serves are struggling for a whole variety of reasons. It may be to do with family pressure due to debt, poor housing conditions, marital breakdown, and by knowing our children and getting our families to trust us, we can maybe facilitate families in sort of trying to resolve some of these issues. We had a little girl coming in and she had to be carried into school. She was kicking and screaming. But it wasn't until we knew that the police had conducted a raid on her house that morning looking for drugs and had actually pulled back the duvet off her while she was in bed that, you know, she didn't really want to come to school. She didn't feel safe there. She didn't think she was going to be any safer in school. And that needed to be addressed before we started looking anywhere near sort of punishments or... So that's about the holistic approach.
As part of that holistic approach, vulnerable children are placed in a nurture group to help improve behaviour.
We've had several children that have been permanently excluded from their previous schools that have been able to come in and work within the nurture room over a period of 3 terms, and they have been very successfully integrated back into mainstream without any further exclusion.
I look at young people in schools and I think they are immensely wonderful, and they're just as wonderful as they ever were. I think the adult world is extremely good at demonising young people and extremely bad at analysing its own performance, which often leads to that bad behaviour in the young.
And nurture groups have also proved to be a big success at Somerville Primary.
The 6 children that we had earlier on in the group, if you'd have seen them back in September, they were dire. They weren't sitting, they weren't listening. One of the girls and one of the boys was scratching and biting. All of this is really unacceptable behaviour. Put your hand up if you can tell me the 3 golden rules of the group. What was the first golden rule, Sammy?
No fighting.
Good, no fighting. But in school we felt, because this was still ongoing, we felt that they needed more than just parents talking to them when they got home. So then we had these nurture groups that have been going for a while now.
What we're going to do is play feelings bingo. What happens is you all get a card each.
The SEAL programme, which is used in lots and lots of schools now right across the country, is a DFES initiative, social and emotional aspects of learning. So it's really focusing on the social and emotional side of learning, and underpinning that is a fully resourced curriculum which teaches pupils the social, emotional and behavioural skills that they need to become effective learners.
The whole of the SEAL programme changes behaviour, and it gives, I think, not only does it change the way children are behaving now, I think it's a vehicle for really having something sustained that's going to last that child through their career.
The next one is angry. Pass that emotion on round the group, angry. It's just generally to get children to express their feelings either by facial expressions or giving them other ways of, for instance, if a child is angry, instead of going out and pushing something, or we give them other strategies to use, really. So look at that picture, show me how you're going to do happy, and can you pass that happy smile all the way around the group.
We were most impressed by the SEAL's material because, of course, what they are saying is very much the theme of our report, that children need to be taught behaviour, social behaviour. If schools and parents don't take an active role in doing so, in promoting good behaviour, in modelling good behaviour, which is sometimes quite a tough one for the adult world, they must assume that children will pick up other examples of behaviour which they'll be less happy with.
Somerville has launched another initiative, Cool Friends, to help children who have difficulty making friends or get caught up in fighting and bullying.
It's just a place for the children to come, have fun, and it just encourages good behaviour through and through. Try and get that bucket away from me, okay, and pass it on to the next person. It's somewhere that they can, they know that they have got friends. If they go outside, if they're just lonely outside, they know that if they come to Cool Friends, there is someone there that will play with them, talk to them. Well done, brilliant.
It works when two people are fighting, they go to Cool Friends, they play with each other, they don't fight anymore.
The person who bullied me, I play with her now, we don't fall apart again.
The Steer inquiry believed far too many schools were relying on sanctions to enforce good behaviour and neglecting the use of appropriate rewards, not a criticism that could be levelled at Somerville Primary.
We do reward children who change their behaviour. We reward them well. We give out a lot of stickers, a lot of badges. Some of our children almost falling over with the amount of badges stuck on them. But equally, we reward the children who are always well behaved. So we have a half-termly behaviour prize, which is actually for the children who are always well behaved, rather than just those who have changed their behaviour.
Here's your pen, your Somerville Primary School pen, which I wish I had, and congratulations. And another big clap.
Sir Alan Steer, the so-called discipline czar, was appointed to his post amid intense media alarm about the poor state of behaviour in schools. But he's far from pessimistic about the future.
I'm very optimistic about the future. I actually do not believe that schools are generally disorderly places. I think the vast majority of schools are orderly places, sometimes in a society which is not orderly. I think for many children, their life in school is an experience of calm and order and love and support, which they may not get outside school.